what we're doing with the peaches, because they like to grow in an open vase shape. Okay, so I like to have the center of the tree open. So I'm actually going to take out some of these branches that, and you may not like me for this, because each one of these flowers is going to have peach fruit on it if the weather conditions are right. So I am taking off some of your potential fruit. So I'm definitely going to take some of these off. And again, I am taking off fruiting potential, but we're not so worried about that this year. Plus, most of these peaches will put on a lot more fruit than their branches can hold. So say all this branch here had all these flowers and they have a few peaches each. This wood is not terribly strong yet, so it's going to really bend down with the weight of that. So in pruning every year, we are sort of diminishing some of the fruit potential, but it's for the good of the plant. So, and I'm always looking for sort of outward vase-shaped growth too. So anything that's growing sort of down, you got to think too, when leaves come out here on this branch, it's going to shade everything here. So that will never really fruit well. So I'm going to take anything that's growing sort of down. So, generally we want 3 to 4 scaffold branches, which we're training it to, which will sort of go out. Everything else we sort of prune back a little bit as well. So that branch is sort of going up. I'm going to take that off. And then when I get to here, so I can keep both of these, I think, this year. But I'm actually just going to nip the tips of these just a little bit. And what I'm doing when I do this, I try to pick for a bud where I'm pruning just above a bud that's going to sort of grow out and not back in toward the plant.
Got it.
So also in sort of nipping the tips here, we're also going to encourage more branching, stronger growth of the branches here rather than sending all that energy out.
Got it.
So here, I like how this branch is sort of growing outward, so I'm actually probably just going to take that whole thing off. And that one's sort of growing in an odd direction. We'll take that off. And then try to just snip some of the tips here. Those look okay. Coming here, I generally, like I said, I'm going to try to keep getting the branches to grow out a little bit. And then I'll maybe nip that there. Nip that here. Try not to hit the leaves. And that's probably a finished product for now for this tree. So we've got a nice open vase shape. We've got the branches sort of growing out as much as we can. And then next year we'll fine tune it a little bit more too, depending on what the growth is. So hopefully you've got enough. If this bears really well and we don't have a lot of frost or anything, this is almost, you may have to come back with a post or something here. If you have a lot of peaches on it this year, I would encourage you to thin some of those out, actually pull some of them off.
Oh.
Because again, most of the peaches we have now, they'll put on way more fruit than they can really hold until these branches get a little bit bigger.
I see.
So the first 3 years, we're always just trying to manage for good structure and hopefully a good root system. And then, after, maybe year 4, then we're a little more worried about the fruit. Cut some of this off the bottom. Because all this, if we allow it to stay here, it's just not going to do much. It's going to get shaded out. But nice blooms on it. Let's see here. Got a couple of options. So maybe a scaffold branch there, which I'll snip to make it go that way. Don't like this one growing in the middle towards the center there. Cut that off because this one here gives us a little more outward growth. In fact, I'm probably going to take this off. It's growing a little more towards the center, so I'll let that branch take it off. So we've got scaffold branches here, here, and here. Some of these off the bottom we may go ahead and take off, because they will get shaded too. And then we'll probably leave these for this year, or at least the healthiest of them, and see what it looks like next year. See what else we need to do. So this one's maybe where I'd stop for this year. Okay, I'll maybe just nip the tips on some of these just to promote a little more bushier growth, better branching. You see your pollinators there already.
So when you cut the top, you actually encourage it to grow.
Yeah, so there's a growth hormone called auxin that flows through the plant, and it usually goes to the outermost branch tips. And so if you've got say you had a branch that was this long here, from here to here, all the auxin's gonna be here.
Oh, on the top.
So it's gonna push all the growth here. If we take that off, we sort of force the auxin to stay more here and encourages these branches to go bigger and better.
Got it.
So we're sort of tapping into that system a little bit when we're doing some pruning. So I wouldn't do too much more than the branches going to the flowers there. It's usually not prime time to take cuttings. This one's probably gonna hurt when you see it, but to open this up, I will like to make that cut there. Again, just to sort of open up the center. So anything kind of growing straight up, I don't really like. In fact, I'm gonna try to tip this one and try to get it to grow that way a little bit. Try to promote more outward growth. Kind of got too many branches here, so I tend to take some of the top growing ones off, promote a little outward growth. And then that one's probably not going to make a good branch, so that's probably where I'll stop at that one this year. We've opened it up a little more in the center, directed some growth outwards. And we're not going to do much, but we probably will tip it a little bit just to encourage some stronger branching. So that's all I do to that one. Okay? Maybe try to find any branches that might rub, or any branches that will try to compete for central leader. I'm not going to prune this as hard as I would other fruit trees. See how this one's sort of already rubbing, or once it grows it's going to rub on that one. So I might take that off. Some of the lower branches we might not need as much, they'll get shaded out anyway. For trees like this, again, we're just trying to correct and make sure nothing's trying to become a central leader of the tree that doesn't need to be, which it doesn't look like that's too much of a problem. But this branch right here is growing a little towards the center, so it may try to take over as a central leader one day, which I don't want. Same thing with that one. Again, just looking for anything that might rub on something else, create a wound.
This too? This too?
Yep, there's one there. So, and how do you choose which one? I generally just choose take out the branch that doesn't look as good as the other one.
I see.
It's a little bit of just personal opinion. So that one's sort of growing in the other branch. I'm gonna take that off. And everything else I'll probably keep.
Okay.
Okay? Doesn't look like there's any major issues with that one right now. Got a nice central leader, so I like how that's going. Really just kind of taking off any of the obviously dead and crispy branches. Bound to be a few. Anything that might rub together, anything that might try to grow up towards the middle, try to take out. So this one here looks like it may try to take over as some type of central leader, or trying to, so I'm just going to reinforce that this one is our central leader. And just take that down a little bit. Same with these, just to keep this part of the tree in check. encourage a little branching. That's probably not going to do much for the tree. Some of these are growing back towards the middle, which you normally don't like. It's going to rub.
Get those leaves up.
Yeah, overall, that looks pretty good and straight. So probably a decent enough place to stop for that one. So I'll just get a little bit more of the dead off there. So. Alright. Again, I'm looking just to move the growth outward a little bit. See, this one has almost like a little troubled spot. I don't know if it's disease or what, so I'm just going to go below that and just encourage a little outward growth. That's all I do to that one. Maybe take these off. Down there. It's got nipped on a little bit. So really what you're doing is on these, going through and just taking some of the dead off. I'm also looking for things that are just going to grow right up toward the middle. Try to open the middle of this up a little bit too. Anything that might grow and rub into something else. Let's see. That one's getting a little wild there. We'll keep it anyway. Blueberries are another one that will put on a lot of fruit. I generally recommend fertilizing them after they've put on leaves. A lot of the energy, or most of the energy they use to leaf out, put on flowers, and then put on leaves, they already have stored in their root system. I'm really just going to go through and try to open up a little bit of the middle. Just because more airflow usually equals less disease. So, got some things here that are growing up and just sort of congesting the middle of this plant. They tend to do better when you get more sunlight in the middle and get more airflow. It's a fine balance between doing that and taking too much out, which we don't want to do either. Can always sort of lower it down. So again, this one I'm going to try to open up a little bit of the center, take out things that I see that may rub eventually, prune out any dead or diseased wood.
So the berries, like fruit trees, you want to prune them in the early spring.
Right now, yeah. So blueberries are a little different. I'm not doing as heavy a pruning on these, just because they tend to produce their berries, the wood that will produce berries in the summer or the late summer of last year. So if I were to prune everything down really heavy, I'm going to take a lot of the fruit away. Right now for these young plants, I'm really just trying to mold their form so that they won't be as congested later on. Now when these things are a little bit older and mature, we're not going to do interior pruning a lot. And what they'll do is they'll start pushing, like some of these have, they'll start pushing these new shoots every year, and they sort of regenerate themselves. So once they get older, several years old, then what you're doing is sort of managing those new shoots, taking some of them out, making sure the middle's not too crowded, but you kind of cut away, like this wood here will eventually be cut out after you get some regenerative shoots, maybe 5-6 years on. So the plant sort of regenerates itself. Sort of cut that down to size a little bit and get it to bush. I'm gonna manage some of this interior growth here, keep some of it. Just nip some of these tips just to let it branch more. But I'm not going to do too much more than that. There's not a lot of scraggly dead growth on this one. So that's probably where I'll stop there. And this one, we've got some rubbing interior growth that I'll take off. Things that are just growing right towards the center.
You should take this one off, right? Kind of
Oh, right. Yeah.
sorry about that.
Yeah, some of these.
I should do that.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, because you can get where that will constrict the bark of the plant. So yeah, it's good to take some of this off. Here we go. That one's kind of growing back towards the middle. Yeah, not a lot of dead and diseased material on this, which is good. So we'll just let that continue to grow like that. We kind of need to open this up a little bit if we can.
Why this bark is like a
Gray?
brown? Yeah, gray.
That sort of indicates it's a little bit older, mature bark.
Oh.
Whereas the green is sort of newer material.
Okay. But it's still alive, right?
It is. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And so here we've kind of got an interesting issue in that you've got a lot of this gray bark, which is fine, but right up under it you've got new
Right.
shoot material. So maybe we can pull that out. I'll select just for the outward growing material there. It may just have to rub for this season. We'll take out some of the interior growing shoots, things that are rubbing. If two are rubbing, I try to find the one that's growing the most toward the interior and take that out. Take out some interior shoots here. Just try to open this up a little bit. You can always just kind of go and nip back some of the material. Encourage a little bushing. The rest of that I may leave. Yeah, this one looks like it's gotten a good start, so get some decent fruit off of this year, possibly, if the frost didn't take all the buds. So. And then next year, if you call me back out again, we'll sort of try to clean this up a little bit more. You know, just open the interior up and just shape it one more year before we really let them go. Fruit off of it, it's fine, but again, it's probably just now coming into fruiting maturity. So I'd expect a little more this year. We're gonna take some of these bottom ones off. Maybe one more there. We'll leave the rest. Just encourage some branching. That's probably all we'll do. Hard to keep those off a lot. So really what I'm doing is pruning, you know, things that are growing, branches that are growing straight down or straight up into other branches. Okay. So see, these will probably rub eventually, so I'm just gonna select that one out. That doesn't look like a good branch there. Here we've got an issue where you've got both of these trying to be the central leader, and I generally like to keep it to where you just have one. And so we can do one of two things. We can nip this one here and try to let that take over, and then I'm gonna nip that one lower just to reinforce that this is the leader, and it'll probably grow a little straighter there. Do the same thing there. That's probably all we'll do to that one for this year. Cool. I'm gonna take a few of the interior branches off, see if the thing's even. Where's the line to? That branch looks dead to there. Let's see.
How can you tell it's dead or?
Just the color. So, let's see how that one's green in the middle, and then this one is brown.
I see.
The dead one's brown. So, and some of these may just be a little dead on the end. You just have to kind of cut back to some live material. So we'll just let that be and see what comes up. So we're kind of getting a little scaffold branch going. Take some of these bottom ones off.
Always take the bottom off.
Yeah, just because again they're useful when they're really young, but then they'll get shaded, and they won't really do much. The tree has to still feed them and water them, and if they're not doing anything, that sort of steals the energy that it could be putting onto the fruit. And the other branches you actually want to keep around. For interior growth, I'm taking off. I actually don't like how that one's growing in the interior, so I'm going to go back down, cut right above a shoot. I know that this will turn into the branch this year and grow that way. And what's probably best for this tree too is how this one sort of wants to grow this way. I'm actually going to take that back to there. Sort of let this thing restart. Anything that looks like it wants to grow towards the center, take out. That's probably where we'll stop for this year and let these grow, see what happens. To that one. Okay, so plums, again, we like a outward vase-shaped growth. So because this one's sort of trying to grow in the middle, I'm going to take that all the way out. And these were put in when?
A few weeks ago.
Oh, okay. So these are really new. It's good. Okay. So, gonna nip these tips a little to encourage some side branching. And if we were to leave these long and all these did happen to fruit or even have lots of leaves on them, it's possible that this wood is not strong enough to hold it all up. So it's good that we can manage that a little bit. It's kind of growing towards the interior, I don't like, so. I'll leave that this year. We'll probably cut this middle one out next year though. But I'll leave it just to help it grow a good root system. That's as much as I do to that. So good side branches. I'm gonna go ahead and cut that part out. Going to, again, with these young ones, I'm trying to find where I can cut just above a bud, where that will then grow out. Same with this one. So we've already got kind of 4 scaffold branches, so I'll just take that one off. And that's it for that one. Off, which right now. So that will take over and eventually become the top. But I like how we did our scaffold branches. So we've got those sort of spreading out there. We can prune these back a little bit right now. And again, if I were to make this pruning cut here, that's going to take it that way. So I want to try to prune something that's going outward a little more. That's not too bad there. Like that, and that's probably all we'll do.
Do we need to do anything with the center or those small ones?
No, because again, we're going to have this take off here. And we actually want a bottom layer of scaffold branches, which is what these will be. And then usually what you like is another layer of scaffold branches a little bit higher up, which I'm hoping some of these will become. We will reinforce that next year a little bit. But let's just let that grow. Hopefully this will take back over to the leader. And the tree will sort of right itself out. Central leader, we like that. So first thing I'm going to do is sort of establish a top height. So I just like there just because it's easy to reach. And everything else we're going to prune back from this. And I want to establish that this is a central leader, so I'm going to prune these back and prune them just to where they're going to grow outward. A little bit more just to make sure, reinforce that as a central leader. Actually, I'm probably going to take this down a little bit more too. We'll let these grow for now, but we'll take them off. These bottom ones next year. And that's so, that one done. Pears are bad to grow what we call really acute branch angles. So they want to just grow straight up like this, where we like to get them a little more outward. Okay. So sometimes what's nice too is if we can prune this one down, say to here, sometimes it's nice to tie a little string and stake it out to get the branches, especially on these peaches. You can do it on your apples too, but your apples look like they have good branch angles. But here, it'd be nice to, tie it like that just so it grows outward a little bit.
I should do it now or?
Yeah, just, before you put the cages back on, if you can. Okay. Or, you can always, kind of tie them through the cages or, tie them down while the cage is still on. But yeah, just kind of get them more like that so it's going outward.
Okay, got it.
So again, I'm just going to prune these side branches back to somewhere where they're going to grow outward. And then, like I said, a couple of these you can try to bend down and just tie little wires to stakes. Okay. And then, this is already sort of too tall. Okay. So I just like to establish the top height of the tree. We'll just go right here. In fact, since I did that, probably going to take this one down a little bit more. Establish this as a central. We'll probably have more scaffold branches come here. Here's our scaffold branches there. That's done for this year. Some of these back. Pick my top height here. And that can kind of be anywhere you want. I just like to keep it manageable. And there. So next year we'll let this grow. It may be that we come out and prune this out because it might get too big. But you'll probably have some branches pushing this way. These branches will look a little bit better. It's pretty weak. We'll take it off. But other than that, it looks okay.
So do I still need to push it out like this?
Yeah, like some of these. Yeah, you may want to try to stake that one, that
one,
that one.
Okay.
Just to try to get a little bit. And you don't have to wrench it down, but even if you're going from here, your final angle's there, it's much better. The wood will actually bend and start growing this way a little more. You don't have to do that all year. You can do it for a few. So what we'll do here is, this will probably be our central leader. So we'll, find maybe there. It's our top height. Need to prune this back down. This would be a good one if you can to go out with. Same with that. There. That's about it for that. That one, if this was able to grow, it's going to grow right into that one, so we don't like that. We'll let that go off. So. Another thing I do, try to get it, snip the end a little bit. That's just taking off some dead material. There's not much else we need to do to this one. Just let it grow from there, I think. Let's see, I'm just gonna go and make little cuts here. You've got a rubbing branch here.
Right.
So if you don't mind taking that out, you've got options. You can either stake that down maybe this way.
Oh, okay.
Or, we can cut that out. But you may want to have that just to see if you can get some fruit on it this year.
Okay.
You must just stake that way or just let it lie there, but we don't want it to rub.
Okay. Just like pretty flexible when you do them.
Yeah. Some of them are. These are much more flexible than the pears are. Other than that, I wouldn't do much to this. It's going to grow. It might produce some this year. Depends on how bad the frost hit it. These are not terribly cold hardy, but they'll still live. They just won't fruit a lot if their flower buds got zapped. So there's not a whole lot I'm doing here. Yeah, just let it grow. They do really well. Going towards the center, but I wouldn't do too much. I think we want to leave some leaves on it, especially if you just kind of transplanted it. So give it plenty of leaves to feed that root system, and should do well.